The Orioles celebrated another walk-off win on Monday, their sixth of the season, as they beat the Rangers in Game 1 on a walk-off hit by pitch, with the RBI going to Jorge Mateo. We'll recap that game, plus talk a little bit about Jorge Lopez's struggles and Ramón Urías being back, all coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast.
You are Locked On Orioles, your daily Baltimore Orioles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Orioles fans. Today is Tuesday, July 5th, 2022, and welcome back in to the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I'm your host, Connor Newcomb. And coming up on today's episode, we're going to start by recapping an exciting Orioles win on Monday to open a three-game series against the Texas Rangers. The Orioles, on a walk-off hit by pitch, beat the Rangers 7-6 in 10 innings. I'll get you the 5 things you need to know from that game. Then we'll get into a couple more things that did have to do with Monday's game. First, Jorge Mateo on the walk-off. Then, Jorge Lopez, third straight outing where he's allowed a home run. How worried should we be? And how much of a rest does he maybe need? And then Ramón Urías back off the injured list, rejoining the Orioles today. And Richie Martin was sent down. Does that mean his time in the big leagues is officially over? That's all coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast, which is brought to you by BlueNile.com. Make your moments sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And Locked On Orioles listeners get $50 off purchases of $500 or more. This podcast exclusive includes engagement. Just use code LOCKEDON at checkout. And before we get to today's episode, just want to thank you for making Locked On Orioles your first podcast listen of the day. Locked On Orioles is free and available on all podcast listening platforms. We've got new episodes Monday through Friday, 5 days a week here on the pod covering the Orioles. You can't get that anywhere else. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes, Apple Pods, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you listen. And on any of those apps, if you could leave a 5-star rating and a review for the podcast, that really, really helps me out. And then, of course, we're here on YouTube as well, 5 days a week on the Locked On Orioles YouTube channel. If you're watching here, make sure to hit that red subscribe button, like, and comment on the videos as well. And even if you're not a YouTube viewer, if you could just hop over to the Locked On Orioles YouTube page, hit the subscribe button. All it does is help me out. Doesn't change your life at all, but it really helps me to grow this podcast and continue to bring you this Orioles content. But again, we thank you, the listener, for making Locked On Orioles your first podcast listen of the day. And for your first listen today, let's start with an Orioles victory, their second in a row, as they beat the Rangers 7-6 in 10 innings in the day game on Monday in Game 1 of a 3-game series. And with the win, the Orioles now 37-44 on the season, actually matching the win total of the Rangers, who fell to 37-41 with the loss. And I'm going to get you the 5 things you need to know from the Orioles' 7-6 victory over Texas. And the first thing you need to know is that, well, the Orioles won on a walk-off. It was their 6th walk-off victory of the season. That is tied for the second most in the big leagues. The only team with more is the Yankees. They've won 10 games via the walk-off so far this year. And of course, the Yankees have the most wins in baseball. But it was another interesting walk-off win for the Orioles as they win it on a walk-off hit by pitch in the 10th inning. Of course, bottom of the 10th started with a tie game. Runner on second was Austin Hayes after Brian Baker did a nice job to put up a 0 in the top of the 10th out of the Oriole bullpen. And Rougned Odor has come to the plate. Now, Odor had, already had 2 hits, a double and a single on the day, but he was facing a tough lefty and a veteran in Matt Moore. I wasn't a huge fan of Brandon Hyde putting the bunt sign on, but he did to try and get, Austin Hayes over to third base, and it worked out. Not only did Odor put down a good bunt, well, he put down such a good bunt that it kind of rolled past Moore for a bunt single. The Orioles covered the corners, and the Rangers intentionally walked Ramón Urías, which was the right move to load the bases with nobody out, for Jorge Mateo, who, as we know, has not been swinging the bat too well recently. And Matt Moore threw 2 pitches in the bottom of the 10th inning. It was first pitch to Odor, bunt single, then intentionally walked Urías. Of course, you don't have to throw pitches anymore. And then the first pitch to Jorge Mateo, he plunks him in the knee with a fastball for a walk-off RBI hit by pitch for the Orioles to win the game. And I tweeted it out from my Twitter account, it kind of reminded me of the end of bench warmers when Howie gets hit and is injured and they basically have to help him up the first base line. Jorge Mateo was hurt by the hit by pitch. I hope he's all healthy and ready to go for tonight's game because he was kind of standing at home plate for a while. The O's had to help him up the first base line because, of course, he had to touch first before the game was officially over. So hopefully Jorge is all good. He looked a lot better in the walk-off celebration. But what another interesting walk-off win for the Orioles this season. They continue to play a lot of extra inning games. It's their 8th. They've been good in them. 6 walk-off wins overall as well. Been a lot more fun for the O's who, hadn't had a walk-off home run this year, coming into this year since 2019, and they hadn't had many walk-off wins the past couple of years. That has certainly changed this season. Second thing you need to know from this one is that Adley Rutschman may have broken his slump with a huge game and a huge moment in the 9th inning. Now, Adley did have a hit before the 9th inning in this game. He entered the game on an 0 for 18 streak. He was in a little bit of a mini slump, and that mini slump did not continue very long, although he got a little bit of help. It was a little squibber off the end of the bat that, he just beat out at first base. He was initially called out. First base umpire said that Dane Dunning, the Texas starter, threw him out, but the Orioles challenged, and Adley Rutschman was ruled safe on an infield single, so at least he got himself a hit. And then Adley comes up in the bottom of the 9th inning. Orioles trailing 6-5, and they got a leadoff single from Trey Mancini on the first pitch of the inning, and Ryan McKenna comes in to pinch run for him, but then Anthony Santander flies out, and Ryan Mountcastle is retired, and all of a sudden, you are looking at a spot where you need Adley to come through. And what does he do? He gets a high fastball from the left side against the closer for Texas, Joe Barlow, turns on it, hits it off the wall in right field. It kind of scampers away from the right fielder, Adolis Garcia, and Ryan McKenna, with all that speed, easily scores from first to tie the game at 6. Another double for Adley, who had a 2 for 4 on the day. Just a huge swing in that game. Also worked a walk, was on base 3 times. That should be big for kind of swinging him in the positive direction at the plate. Third thing you need to know from this one is that Dean Kremer hit a bump in the road, really for the first time in terms of him being healthy this season. I know he had a big bump in the road, which was the oblique injury that caused him to miss the first 2 months of the year. But since he's been back, Kremer's been incredible. He was on a 23 consecutive scoreless inning streak that extended into this game. He was through 4 scoreless innings in this game, came back out in the top of the 5th. The Orioles had given him a 2-0 lead. And after retiring the first batter of the 5th inning, things kind of unraveled on Dean Kremer. He loaded the bases. He allowed a sac fly to Garcia that made it 2-1. Then on an 0-2 pitch, Nathaniel Lowe hit an RBI single to make it 2-2. And there were still 2 outs at this point. And then just a high fastball that Mitch Garver crushes into left field for a 3-run homer, made it a 5-run 5th inning for Texas that gave them a 5-2 lead over the Orioles. And Kremer couldn't even finish that 5th inning. After the homer, he was pulled for Nick Vespi, who ended up getting out of that 5th and keeping it 5-2. But even though Kremer had that bad inning, I mean, he goes 4 2/3, 5 runs on 8 hits, 4 Ks, 2 walks, that home run. He threw 92 pitches. And, the Rangers did get him a bit for 8 hard hit balls, but he still got a 2.48 ERA on the season, even with that 5-run 5th inning. And up to that point, he was throwing strikes. And, the Rangers had some base runners. He was giving up hits, but he was getting out of jams. That 5th inning really just got away from him. But at the end of the day, he had 12 whiffs. Now it's on 50 swings, but still did have 6 of them on his 4-seamer. His cutter, once again, was starting to look better and better. Got 3 whiffs on that pitch. Velo was a little down for Dean Kremer, although he maxed out at 95, but he sat around 92, 93. But at the end of the day, rough 5th inning. Other than that, still liked what I saw from Dean. And this is still such a net positive this year compared to what he was last season. I think if a couple things break his way, he gets out of that 5th inning with 1 or 2 runs allowed, and his start looks very, very different. Fourth thing you need to know, back to the Oriole offense. I mentioned Rougned Odor at the top. He had the bunt single in the 10th inning that led to the walk-off hit by pitch, but maybe Rougned Odor is heating up a little bit for an Orioles infield that desperately needs somebody to heat up. Odor had been slumping. Mateo has been slumping. Tyler Nevin's been slumping. Jonathan Arauz, even though he had, an RBI single in this game and, the error off his bat brought in 2 runs in the 6th that tied the game at 5, it's not like he's scorching the ball at this moment. And, Richie Martin wasn't hitting, and he's now in Triple-A. A lot of guys haven't been producing in the Oriole infield. Well, Rougned Odor did get hot, right around May. Maybe it's happening again for Odor. He goes 3 for 5 in this game with 2 singles and a double. Now, his other 2 at-bats were strikeouts, but he had 2 hard hit balls in the game. And Odor is on a little 3-game hitting streak in which he's 5 for 12 with 2 singles, a home run, and 2 doubles in his last 3 games for the Orioles. And the other nice thing is he's gotten a couple of hits off lefties in that stretch as well. He's driving the ball, 3 extra base hits as well. This is a good sign for Odor. Who knows how long he is for this Orioles infield with, his overall struggles and, guys like Vavra, Westberg, and Henderson knocking on the door at Triple-A. But he brings, as I've talked about, good vibes, good veteran leadership to this Oriole team. And if he can hit just a little bit out of, the 6, 7, or 8 hole in the Oriole lineup, brings them so much more from an infield that has just really been disappointing offensively this year. And the fifth thing you need to know is that the Oriole bullpen, for the most part, was locked down in this game and really saved Dean Kremer, who, again, couldn't even finish the 5th inning, gave up those 5 runs in the 5th. Started with Nick Vespi, who came in, finished the 5th inning, got through the 6th, ended up striking out 3. Then Felix Bautista got 2 outs. Cionel Perez continues to dominate. He got 4 outs with 2 strikeouts. And Brian Baker had a huge top of the 10th with the zombie runner at second, still was able to put up a 0 with a couple of strikeouts in that inning. The Oriole bullpen as a whole was 5 1/3 on the day, just 1 run on 1 hit, 9 strikeouts, and 4 walks. Another great day for one of the best bullpens in baseball, and you love to see it. But of course, there was one Oriole reliever on Monday that did struggle once again, and that was Jorge Lopez, who for his 3rd consecutive appearance allowed a home run. He came in the top of the 9th inning in a 5-5 game, usually a closer spot at home, and gave up a leadoff home run. Another tough outing for Lopez. So coming up next, we'll break down the struggles of Jorge Lopez a little further and really talk about not so much what's going wrong, but what do the O's need to do moving forward? And does he need a little bit of a break from taking the mound late in games for the Orioles? But first, got to tell you about BlueNile.com, because whether you're looking for that engagement ring and you're going to pop the question, or you're celebrating a special moment, you can find jewelry as unique as her with the modern convenience of online shopping at BlueNile.com. And here's the best part. If you don't know what the right size should be, the right look should be, or you're just having trouble deciding what the best piece of jewelry is for you or your loved ones, BlueNile.com has jewelry experts on hand 24/7, available via phone or chat to help you find a memorable gift, and this is even better, at every single budget. So make your moments sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And Locked On Orioles listeners get $50 off purchases of $500 or more. This podcast exclusive includes engagement. So use code LOCKEDON. That's code LOCKEDON. Plus, every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. So the Orioles beat the Rangers 7-6 with a walk-off hit by pitch in 10 innings on Monday to take Game 1 of a 3-game series against Texas at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. But, there were a couple of negatives from this Oriole win. One was Dean Kremer's 5th inning, obviously. And another one was Jorge Lopez, who, for the 3rd straight appearance, allowed a home run. Now, we know what happened to Jorge over the weekend. I documented it well on Monday's episode. Make sure to go back and listen to that one. But he had his first bad stretch of the year. He had a .73 ERA through the month of June, entering Friday's contest in Minnesota. Well, he gives up the walk-off homer to Byron Buxton Friday night, blows the save, gives up the walk-off single to Jose Miranda on Saturday, and blows back-to-back saves. He gets the day off Sunday. The Orioles have a save situation. Dylan Tate comes in, 1-2-3 inning. Orioles salvage the finale in Minnesota on Sunday. But as I said, he wasn't going to pitch Sunday whether he had saved those games or not. Most closers will not save 3 games in a row. They need the day of rest. But he was ready to go for Monday. And while it wasn't a save situation, it was a typical spot where a closer comes in. Tie game at home in the top of the 9th inning. 5-5 game heading to the 9th, and in comes Jorge Lopez. And what happens? Well, He goes 3-1 to Marcus Semien, threw a pretty good sinker. It was in off the hands. Might have actually been ball 4 if Semien had taken it, but Semien turned on that thing and absolutely demolished it. He did not have to worry about the new wall in left field with this ball off the bat of Marcus Semien. 106 miles per hour off the bat, 418 feet to left for a leadoff solo homer in the ninth, which gave the Rangers a 6-5 lead at the time. And after Jorge Lopez had not allowed a home run all season, he has now allowed home runs in 3 consecutive outings. And I don't know if it's more concerning or less concerning that this is the case, but in 2 of the 3 outings, it's been the leadoff guy that's hit the homer. And the other one on Friday night, it was the second batter. Luis Arraez on Friday night singled to lead off the inning. Then the second batter was Buxton, who hit the homer. Saturday, Jorge Polanco led off the 9th inning to tie the game with a homer. And now Semien on Monday leads off the inning with a homer to give Texas the lead. And to be fair to Jorge Lopez, he did bear down after that, which was nice to see. He ended up walking Corey Seager, and Adolis Garcia hit a ball hard to center field that ended up being an out. But after that, Lopez regrouped. He struck out Nathaniel Lowe and struck out Mitch Garver to end the 9th and keep it at just a 6-5 game. Now, those first 3 batters didn't look good, but he got those back-to-back strikeouts. So that's solid. He got 2 Ks in the inning. But a walk and a home run, Lopez hasn't done that really all year. And the thing I mentioned on Monday's episode about Lopez's struggles is that, his velo wasn't really down. Didn't seem like the break on the pitches was any different. Actually, his velo was a little up in Saturday's outing. Well, that was not the case on Monday, which, again, I'm not super concerned about it because 1 outing, and he did still strike out 2 guys and pitched better after the home run and the walk. But the velocity was a little bit down for Jorge Lopez. His sinker averaged 96.7 miles per hour. Now, he threw only 11 of them, but he maxed out at 97.9. And the average on the sinker this year is about 98. And he was averaging less than 97 on that pitch. And it wasn't just that pitch. Every single pitch that he threw, and he threw all 5 pitches on the day, 11 sinkers, 5 sliders, 3 four-seamers, 3 changeups, and 2 knuckle curves in a 24-pitch 9th inning on Monday. Every pitch was down in velo. The slider, he was throwing it at 85. He's thrown that pitch at 88 this year. The four-seamer, that velo was down. Even the curveball, where he's thrown at 84 this year, was throwing 81, 82. The changeup, he sat around 90 this year. He was only throwing that 89. So the velo was down, which is a little bit concerning. But at the end of the day, he did get 5 whiffs, and he got the outs that he needed. But, I mean, his last 3 appearances have, gone an inning and a third, 5 runs, 7 hits, 3 Ks, a walk, and 3 home runs. And in just 3 appearances, his ERA has jumped from 0.73 to 1.88. And he's still got the resume to be an all-star this year. And he's still been, a top 3 reliever in the American League. No question about it. And I don't think at all that Jorge Lopez should lose his closer job. Moving forward this season, as long as he stays an Oriole, we know there's trade chatter, and a lot of teams are going to be calling about Jorge Lopez to try and acquire him from the Orioles. But at the end of the day, he should still be the Orioles closer. He's been great in that role. He's got the best stuff maybe in that bullpen still. I'm fine with him being in that role. But what I will say, and what I hope Brandon Hyde and the Orioles do, is not even, put him in a low leverage role. Sometimes you'll just, try to get a spot where, you hope maybe, you give him Tuesday off, and then Wednesday the Orioles are leading 7-1 in the 9th, and you let him just pitch the 9th at 7-1 for, a low leverage spot. What I would actually do is just give him 3 days off. Just know that he's not pitching tonight, Wednesday, or Thursday, unless there's, a crazy long extra inning game and you absolutely have to use him. I would just tell him, especially for Tuesday night's game, there's no way you're pitching. And I would say for Wednesday and maybe even Thursday, you just give him off. You let him reset. Maybe he throws a bullpen in that stretch, but you don't use him for 3 days. You have him back for Friday against the Angels. And listen, you've got Dylan Tate, who got a save Sunday. He did not pitch in Monday's game, despite the Orioles using a lot of relievers. So you perfectly fine have Dylan Tate, who can get a save Tuesday if you need it. You have Felix Bautista, who has pitched a lot lately, but he only threw 13 pitches on Monday, so you could certainly use him again on Tuesday. And Cionel Perez has been carving people up. He's a potential in that role. And even Joey Crable's been great lately. He didn't pitch Monday either, so he's fresh and rested. So you have options to go to between Tate and Bautista. And maybe, you play matchups with Crable and Perez as well to get you through save situations for the next few days. I don't think this means, you give Dylan Tate a chance to win the closer job. No. Just give Lopez 2 or 3 days where he knows he's not pitching. He can reset mentally, try to wipe those home runs, and get back to the pitcher he was earlier this year, which was absolute pure dominance. And I think he'll be that pitcher again. This is just a rough spot that a lot of relievers go through. I think he needs a little bit of a break, and I hope the Orioles can give him that this week. And maybe it's more of an organic break. Hopefully the Orioles offense can break out, get some big leads, and not have to use these high leverage guys in high leverage spots. They can kind of coast through without using Lopez over the next few days. But that's going to take a change from the offense, because despite 7 runs on Monday, the Orioles still went 2 for 12 with runners in scoring position. They have still struggled mightily in that statistic recently. They are now 7 for 55 in their last 8 games with runners in scoring position. But maybe the offense is getting a little bit of much needed help off the injured list as Ramón Urías returned on Monday. And coming up next, I'll talk about how Ramón could provide a spark to this Orioles offense and how the move on the flip side, sending Richie Martin back to Triple-A, may spell the end for his time as an Oriole. But first, got to tell you about RockAuto.com, because with all the makes and models of cars out there, it's seemingly impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you would need. So why go into that store and have somebody just big time you and make sure they let you know that they know more about cars than you, especially when you're someone like me who doesn't know much. You have computers, you have phones, you have access to rockauto.com. You go there, you save time, you save money. It's a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. They've got reliably low prices for every customer, and they have everything you could need: brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, even new carpet, everything you could need for your car. And for me, I know nothing about cars. I drive one. I don't know anything about it. But if I need a part, I can go to rockauto.com. The website is so easy to use. It makes it easy for even someone like me. So go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. And write Locked On Orioles in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. So the Orioles beat the Rangers 7-6 on Monday, game 1 of a 3-game set in walk-off fashion in the 10th inning on Jorge Mateo's walk-off hit by pitch. And it was nice to see the Oriole offense, put up 7 runs in that game. They had been averaging, 2.2 runs per game over their last 5 and had struggled in that stretch, in Seattle and in Minnesota. So it was nice to see a 7 spot. Now, they still were 2 for 12 with runners in scoring position. They're still having some trouble there, but getting runs on the board is nice. Yeah, 2 of them scored via an error, but runs are runs and you will take them. And where the O's have really been hurting is they're getting really no production out of the infield and the bottom of the lineup. And as we talked about earlier, Rougned Odor maybe heating up a little bit should help. But what else should help is getting Ramón Urías back, as the Orioles activated Ramón Urías off the 10-day injured list with that left oblique injury on Monday before the game. Now, he was not in the lineup on Monday, but he did enter the game in the 8th inning, came in as a pinch hitter and actually almost gave the Orioles the lead. Came in to pinch hit for Jonathan Arauz and hit a ball 380 feet out to left field. Ended up being an inning-ending flyout, but last year, anytime before the new big wall, would have been a 2-run homer that gave the Orioles a 7-5 lead heading into the 9th. He put a good swing on the ball at the end of the day. It was a hard hit ball. So he looked good in his first plate appearance. Second time he came up was the 10th inning. He was immediately intentionally walked. Next batter, Mateo gets hit by a pitch and the Orioles win. And, he was out there at third base. Now, he didn't get any plays hit to him, but ended up playing 2 innings defensively back at third as well. So seems to be all ready to go. And for Urías, this is huge for the Orioles because, yeah, he hasn't been at his best so far this year, but he was one of the, not breakout stars, but real big surprises for the Orioles last season. Ended up being a really pleasant surprise. And early this year, it hadn't really been the case. Now, last time he played was June 9th, so he missed almost a month with that oblique injury. And the stats weren't exactly great before the injury. 49 games before the injury, 188 plate appearances. He was hitting .225 with a .273 on base and a .387 slugging, 6 home runs, just a .5 WAR, and just an 84 WRC plus in, just under, as I said, 200 plate appearances. But the thing with Urías, and we actually talked about this on an episode about 6 weeks ago or so with Ben Palmer of Pitcher List and Baltimore Sports and Life on, about how Ramón Urías was ready for a breakout because all of his expected stats and all of his, exit velocity and StatCast numbers were so much better than his actual numbers. He was ready to break out, and he was starting to do it a little bit, and then he gets the oblique injury and misses almost a month. But now that he's back, Urías should be a pretty regular part of the lineup because, as we know, plays a pretty solid second base, plays a really good third base, and can play shortstop for you as well, can play all 3 infield positions, gives you that versatility. And we know what his bat can be. And with not a lot of other offense coming from the infield, you have to assume Urías, whether it's at second, short, or third, it's going to be in the lineup pretty much almost every day here moving forward until, he shows that he doesn't deserve to be or someone takes that spot from him in the lineup. But, Ramón Urías still, he's hitting 225, but the expected batting average from StatCast is 268. He's got a 50.8 hard hit percentage. That is in the top 7% of all hitters in Major League Baseball. You put those two stats together, at some point, he's going to be hitting more like 270, 280, and not 225. He's hitting the ball hard. Now he's hitting the ball on the ground too much. He needs to start lifting the ball, which he was doing a little bit before the injury. But once he starts to lift the ball with those exit velocities and those hard hit percentages, things are going to get better for Urías, and hopefully we'll see him closer to the hitter we saw last year. But of course, there was a flip side to this move. The O's had to take someone off the active roster to add Urías. And it was basically down to 2 guys, either Jonathan Arauz or Richie Martin. And it was Richie Martin who was optioned down to Triple-A Norfolk to make room for Urías. And for Martin, just another case where, he didn't get everyday playing time, but just didn't really show out. And he had those 2 triples early when he came up in Kansas City. But since then, he played in 13 games for the Orioles, 33 plate appearances, did not hit a homer, was just 5 for 30 at the plate. That's a 167 average with 3 singles and 2 triples, 3 RBIs, 3 walks to 10 strikeouts. He was 3 for 4 stealing bases. And, defensively, he played well at shortstop and second base. But other than that, a 51 WRC plus, and again, it's only 33 plate appearances, very small sample size. But with the spot the Orioles are in, they got Richie Martin as a Rule 5 pick. He played all of 2019, basically most of the year as the Orioles starting shortstop. And then, he gets injured before the 2020 season. And if you remember in 2020, the Orioles had signed Jose Iglesias to play shortstop, but he had that quad injury for so long that even though he hit well, he DH'd for most of the year with the Orioles. Shortstop was open, and the Orioles played Andrew Velazquez, who was horrible, a lot of innings at shortstop. Had Richie Martin not broken his wrist in, what they called summer camp before 2020, Martin would have gotten most of Velazquez's innings at shortstop for the Orioles in 2020. And maybe we're looking at Richie Martin a little differently if, he has that first major league season under his belt in 19, where he hit a lot better in the second half than he did when he had his abysmal first half, if you remember, which is to be expected of a Rule 5 pick. If he gets all those at-bats potentially in 2020, if he's healthy, maybe he's in a better standing heading into 2021, and he's still a part of this Orioles future. But if you look at just the tough offensive numbers that he's had, and you look who's around him, I mean, the O's have, I listed them off, Jorge Mateo, Ramón Urías, Rougned Odor, Jonathan Arauz, and Tyler Nevin, all infielders who are all in the big leagues right now, and the O's are trying to figure out which one of these guys is going to stick. And then you look down at AAA, Jordan Westburg, lighting the world on fire, Gunnar Henderson, lighting the world on fire, Terrin Vavra, already on the 40-man roster and lighting the world on fire. And that's not even, mentioning guys like Ryland Bannon, who are still in the 40-man, and even a guy like Kelvin Gutierrez, who's kind of a similar guy to Richie Martin, who's gotten chances as well. All these guys are still in the mix for the infield. And the fact that Martin got a chance, about a month ago is good, but maybe he wasn't given the best chance to take advantage, which is 13 games played and 33 plate appearances. He, wasn't playing every day. But I just think with all the guys coming up, hopefully we'll see Westburg, Henderson, and Vavra soon. They're going to make the Orioles have tough decisions on Nevin and on Mateo and Odor and guys like that. And since those guys are still in the bigs and Martin is now in AAA, unless there's, a big injury bug in which maybe, Jorge Mateo goes down with a serious injury and the Orioles need another shortstop quickly, I think this is it for Richie Martin in the big leagues with the Orioles. And maybe he, catches on somewhere else, still a great athlete, good defender, and maybe something is there in the bat. I don't know if I see it, but maybe something's there. I just think this is it. And I do think at some point this year, he'll play out a lot of the season in Triple-A, and the Orioles will want to keep him in Triple-A to play shortstop once they call up guys like Westberg and Vavra and Henderson. But at some point, he's going to be DFA'd as well to make room on the 40-man for those prospects. And I don't know if anyone will claim him, but I just think that is the last we see of Richie Martin in the big leagues. And it's tough for him. He was always behind the 8 ball as a Rule 5 draft selection. And he was never given quite the best spot to play, especially this year. And it was really tough to have, it's not just 2020, the injuries. He missed most of 2021 with injury before he finally got called back up to the Orioles late last year because he sustained multiple injuries in AAA. He's had bad injury luck, and he's now gotten surpassed by so many infielders that I just think that's it for Richie Martin. We wish him the best moving forward. Hopefully he stays in the organization as a good, AAA defense depth guy. You can always use those guys. But I just think that's going to be it for him in the big leagues. But for the rest of the Orioles in the big leagues, they've got game 2 of a series coming up tonight, Orioles and Rangers. O's will go for the series win in this one tonight. And it's one of their kind of modified bullpen games coming up as Austin Voth will get the start for the Orioles. They've tried to stretch him out a little bit more. I'm hoping Voth can throw 4 innings in tonight's game. Then maybe we'll see Keegan Aiken and Joey Crable kind of come in as the length behind him, and the O's can maybe piece together a win that way. On the other side, though, it's a tough pitching situation for the Rangers. Spencer Howard, the 25-year-old right-hander, will get the ball. He's pitched just 6 2/3 innings this year, and although he does have 12 strikeouts in that stretch, he's allowed 9 earned runs. That's a 12.15 ERA. His last outing against Atlanta, a run on 2 hits in an inning and 2/3. Not sure how deep Howard will go into the game, but hopefully the Orioles offense can wake up against a righty in Howard who has definitely been struggling over the past couple of years. And then I'll be back with you here on the pod tomorrow, recapping game 2 between the Orioles and the Rangers, getting you the 5 things you need to know from that game. And then a little award show coming up on tomorrow's episode. Orioles midseason awards, because that's right. After the win on Monday, they got the Orioles to 37-44. They are officially halfway through the 2022 season. As crazy as that is to believe, they have played 81 of their 162 games. So at the halfway point tomorrow, going to give out some awards. Best hitter, best pitcher, best reliever, best performance, best game, biggest surprise. Bunch of awards across the board to give out to kind of do a recap, a look back at the Orioles' first half of the season. That's coming up on tomorrow's episode. But until then, I'm Connor Newcomb, and this has been the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.